Hello. I know no one is here yet, but yeah, I hope everyone has a good week. As always, this will be available to watch after the fact. So if you can never make the stream when it does happen, which is always 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to the US, fear not. I do try to keep these up for you guys because I know that I have watchers all over the world, and hopefully some people would be interested in this. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. A lot of manga this week. Lots and lots of manga. Not a huge amount. Well, actually, one book, one novel. It was the first one that I started reading, and it was the last one that I finished reading this week, just because it was so long, and it wasn't a drag or anything, but it was very dense. So it took me a while to kind of get into it, I guess. It was from an author that I really enjoy. I've read a lot of her other stuff, and I'd been meaning to read this one for a while. It was one of the few of her books that my library had. And this is Orsinia by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is actually a collection of all of her Orsinia stories. So it's a novel called Malafrena and a bunch of short stories set in the same fictional Eastern European country. So the novel focuses on a group of young people within this fictional country, Orsinia, who are very focused on, because they're the new generation, they're focused on different things and being different from their forefathers and how they can change their lives compared to what their parents had to put up with and their grandparents and such things. But so that takes form of like revolution. It takes form of personal choice, and one of the largest themes is, hey Aisha, thanks for popping in. I always appreciate it, as you know. But it really focuses on personal freedoms and what constitutes freedom, if that makes sense. It was very, very good, but it is a long book to get through. I have the bookmark in here still because I have finished it, but so this first part is all of that novel, and then all of the rest of these is about a dozen short stories set in this country. Very good. If you like Le Guin, I think this is her first book that she ever wrote. It was her first published work. And it kind of shows Orsinia is very different from a lot of her later stuff where she focused on the fantasy and the sci-fi genres. But I think this was kind of an understandable first step. If you don't know, Le Guin was married to a historian. Her father was an anthropologist, so a lot of her books kind of reflect history and the understanding of humanity and cultural disparities and differences and things like that. It's good. Obviously focusing on revolution. There's a lot of hi Erin, thank you for popping in. You haven't missed much. I've just been talking about Orsinia. But a lot of it focuses on European revolution. Obviously, in Europe, there's been a lot of cases of revolution, of where the people overthrow the monarchy. And this is something that this fictional country, Orsinia, is kind of battling with. It's set in the mid or early 19th century, actually. And there's implications that there's always been attempts at revolution prior to the main events of the Malafrena novel, but none of them were able to stick. None of them were ever able to actually change the status quo. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're a history fan, or like a historical fiction fan, if you're a Le Guin fan, the writing here is just as beautiful as always. She has a None of her writing is overly flowery. None of it feels like it's bloated by word count. It can be dense, absolutely, but everything is fairly straightforward in her novels, and I think there's a beauty in how she does that in this, and even more so in her later books. This does feel, or at least Mellifrena does feel like her first figuring out of ideas. Characters are interesting. There's not a huge amount of like it comes from various different points of view, so we do follow multiple characters and their families and their friends and how each of them are trying to change their lives and change the country in their own way, and some are more successful than others. I think when we talk about historical revolution in a social sense, in a cultural sense, there is always sacrifice done by the revolutionaries. Those at the forefront of change very often do not really benefit from that change, or they're obviously at the forefront. They're the ones who are most likely punished, and all this other stuff. But yeah, it's a thick book. It's a lot to get through. It's certainly not a light read. I wouldn't say like sit down and read this in an afternoon, because you're not able to. I do not think. Even the fastest readers, I think, may have to take their time with this one, because it's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, so that was the only novel that I read this week. It was the first thing that I read, but the last thing I finished, just because I had to kind of break it up with manga throughout the week, just to be able to like refresh my brain a little bit. But it was good. I enjoyed it. I love Guin. She's one of my favorite authors, and it was high time that I actually read this. So yeah, check it out if it sounds like something you may be interested in. Next is I'm going to get into the manga. Finished a couple series. Finished 3 series, actually. Reread, technically, sort of, a series, or the beginning of a series, and continued one really exciting series. There's I have some exciting things to talk about. So, but first of all, is probably not the most exciting of the bunch, but I do enjoy this series. I kind of juggled on whether or not I wanted to get this particular release, but ultimately, I'm fond of the series. It has a lot of problems. It has a lot of issues, some of which are just very glaringly obvious, but I like it despite that. So I decided I got this also from a local comic store here, the same place that did I talk about that last week? Probably, because I bought this last week. The same store that I got some of my other books from, manga from. But I got Soul Eater, the Perfect Edition, Volume 1. This contains the first volume and a bit of the original series. I think there's 17 or 18 of these Perfect Editions in Japan. I don't know. But there's 25, 23? I don't remember. There's 20-something volumes of the original singles in Japan and in English. These are obviously based similarly like the Full Metal Alchemist Full Metal editions on the Kanzenban release in Japan. And I used to own Soul Eater in its entirety in the singles, and I was introduced to the series, like a lot of people, through the anime. Enjoyed that, wanted to read the manga, so did that via the Yen press release, and this is Square Enix's re-release, fantasy re-release of the series. It is like the Full Metal edition. It has color pages, no velour to it, but it does have color pages, and I can't show you the color page, well, all of the color pages in this, because the thing about Soul Eater is that there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of fan service in it, which is one of the biggest issues of the series. Not just the fact that it has fan service, because I've said this before, I'm not a prude. I don't care if a series has a whole bunch of like boobs and butt and whatever else. I don't mind. It's fantastic if that's your favorite thing. It's personally not my favorite thing, but I don't care. If I enjoy a story, I don't care if it has that aspect to it. But I will say that it does irk me when it's to the detriment of the series. And I do think that in Soul Eater, just the amount that's in it and when it's inserted into the story does take away from some of the overall pacing and all overall storytelling of Soul Eater, which is a shame because I do really love Soul Eater. But yeah, so it has the sort of like glossy pages that we've come to expect from like the Full Metal edition and the what is it, the Sailor Moon Eternal editions. Again, hardcover, and it's the same trim size as like the Full Metal edition and sort of the I guess like a signature edition. It's a same trim size. But yes, I thought this. Like Rin has said here, she loves the aesthetic for Soul Eater, and that's I love Soul Eater. It's so Halloweeny. I just love the premise of it, the idea of this like Halloween-esque parallel version of the world, and there's this weird school in the middle of the Nevada desert where half the students are literally the embodiment of weapons, and they have to fight not demons or anything, they have to fight people. I mean that's perhaps some commentary on humanity, but so if you're not familiar with Soul Eater, it is the story of our main character is this girl here, Maka, and her partner, Soul Eater, for which the series is named. And there's a reason he has a dumb name called Soul Eater. It is actually explained. Also, okay, the early art for Soul Eater is very rough. This is an artist. Okubo definitely powered up and improved over the course of the series. I haven't read a lot of Fire Force. Again, another interesting premise that I think is really bogged down by the fan service aspect of it, and I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. And I have the like 15 volumes of it or something digitally thanks to a Humble Bundle. I just haven't gotten around to it, and I only watched 1 or 2 episodes of the anime, and I used to own the first volume of that but sold it many years ago. Anyway, but yeah, like the early art is rough. Okay, look at our main characters. They are very ugly. Like I'm comparatively to how the art looks later, it does look a lot nicer. But this volume, we're introduced to, there's 3 like prequel chapters which introduce our 3 main groups. So we have Maka and Soul, who are partners. Soul is like this big scythe weapon, and they are quite well matched in that they get the job done. Maka is very good at her job, basically, and in the very first chapter that we meet them, the whole premise of the school is that these weapon and meister pairs, or this weapon and wielder pairs, they have to collect 99 souls from humans who are, I guess, like doing bad things. Their soul is corrupted or whatever. I don't know. And the last one, so they have to collect 99 of those, and then they have to collect a witch's soul or eat a witch's soul to be able to become a death scythe, which is a weapon that can be used by the Lord Death himself, who just also happens to be their principal. That's the word I'm looking for. So the 2 of them are trying to get their last which soul that they need. Unfortunately, they screw up. They don't manage to get a witch's soul, so it kind of puts them back to 0. They have to start all over again, which is where the story starts for those two characters. We're also introduced to Black Star and Tsubaki, who are very ninja themed. Tsubaki is like a whole range of different weapons. She can turn into katana and shuriken and like smoke bombs and all sorts of things. And Black Star is a very elite, powerful ninja, but he's also very obnoxious and has to be the center of attention all the time. Hey, Ethan, thank you for popping in. We're only just starting on the manga, so you haven't missed much if that's all you're interested in. But because he always has to be at the center of attention, he's very bad at actually defeating these bad humans and getting souls for his partner, and thus they have collected 0. They are not good at their assignment, basically. And then the third kind of main group that we have is Death the Kid, who is the son of the Grim Reaper, of Death, of the principal. We don't know if he's a son or just like somehow Death asexually reproduced. He like just snipped a bit of himself off and is like, this is my child and he will be my successor when I die, because apparently Death can die. And his two partners, who are the what are their names? The something twins. They're oh my goodness. This is bad because I do Patty and Liz. That's their names. Who I think they're meant to, again, like the aesthetics for the show are all over the place, but they're really fun. They all wear like cowboy hats and stuff, but I think their whole backstory is meant to be they're from the mean streets of New York. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, Japan, but fine. But the two of them are revolvers, are guns, and the whole reason that Kid chose them to be his partner in particular is because there's 2 of them. He loves symmetry, so much so that he's like very ADHD, like OCD about symmetry. He cannot function if things aren't symmetrical, which is of course like his biggest flaw in doing his job, in being reliable meister to these girls. So we're in the first half of this book, or a little bit, I'd say probably the first volume's worth, is the introduction to those characters. All 7 of them are main characters. I mean, Maka and Soul are the main characters, but we follow the stories of all 3 groups. And then we jump into the main series itself later on in the book, where we're introduced more to DWMA, Death Weapon Meister Academy. I don't remember what it is in Japanese. And they have to go fight this guy who they think is, well, one of their homeroom teacher had died. And there's rumors that he's been turned into a zombie since. And so their principal is like, you guys, well, he says to Black Star and Maka and their groups, like, you are the worst students. You've got no souls. These are remedial lessons. So we need you to go defeat the guy who turned your old teacher into a zombie. And so they do. And they're introduced to Dr. Stein, who I wonder what the inspiration is for that. Again, lots of like horror, Halloween-y aspects to it. It's a lot of fun. It is really, really fun. I like a lot of the story. When it's good, it's great. Like, it is actually a really, really good series. It has so many moments. Not in this volume necessarily, but throughout the series, there's so many points which were just really cool, really effective. Despite all the weirdness and wackiness, you do grow to love all of these characters. And it's just done really effectively. As I said, the only real downside is that the fan service is gratuitous to the point of being just out of place. And sometimes, because Blair is like a witch, well, she's a cat who has magic, and like the there's a lot of nudity from her. I'm not gonna have this monetized, so you can see, like, even first pages, like, she got the titty out. And it, like, Blair never goes away. A lot of the fan service stuff never goes away. And when it does happen to be in the series, it can drag the pacing down a lot. And it's unfortunate because otherwise Soul Eater is like really, really fun, really, really strong, great action shonen. And hey, it's perfect for spooky season, I think. Perfect for spooky season. But yeah, I decided to pick this one up. I think just mainly because I do have a lot of nostalgia for it. I do really enjoy the parts of it that I love. And there's a lot of that. I'm complaining about the fan service, but like 85% of the time it's great, or even 90% of the time it's great. It's just sometimes it's like, okay, cool. But seeing it in the local comic store that I bought some manga from recently, it was more expensive than it would have been online, but I did want to support them. And I had been, kind of juggling the idea of picking this one up. I wasn't sure if I was going to commit to it or not, and this just like finally pushed me into it because I like the series, and I do like Square Enix's release of it. I don't know, it feels heavier maybe. I haven't read or held a Full Metal edition for a while, so maybe they're the same weight, but it's pretty heavy. Like, you're getting your money's worth, if nothing else. But yeah, Soul Eater doesn't really need an introduction. I think most people have heard of it, at least. And if you haven't watched the show, it's very, very good. I know some people disliked the ending. I didn't. I really liked it. But it is one of those shows that had like an anime original ending. And the manga does continue from there, and it is really, 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 really good. So if you like the show, check out the manga. But yeah, so that was the first manga that I read for this week. The second was I finished a really exciting series. I'd read the first volume of this before, or the first half of this prior to when I first got it. I got the second volume this week, and so I reread the whole series. I reread the first volume and finished the second volume to complete it this week. And that is the super exciting Ping Pong. Yay! I'm so happy. Oh, I love this series so much. For those new to the channel or somehow have missed me mention this constantly throughout the channel's life, I adore Taya Matsumoto. I love everything he's ever done. Ping Pong is his sports series. It follows two high school boys who are childhood friends who are on the ping pong / table tennis club at their high school. Both are pretty talented. They've been playing ping pong for a long time, but both have very different attitudes towards it. And it's a story of the love of the sport, but it's also a story of passion and friendship and dedication and what it means to be, I guess, just a person, but also an athlete. It's phenomenal. If you haven't watched the anime adaptation, go do that because it is brilliant. And it's a Masaki Yuasa directed series. So if you're familiar with his very distinctive animation style, it matches Matsumoto's very distinctive art style very, very well. So yeah, I'll show you a little bit. So we follow Peko and Smile. Peko is a very outgoing, kind of goofy kid who has loved ping pong for a long, long time. Smile is his very subdued, almost robotic, unemotional best friend, and who sees Peko as sort of his personal hero. He always has, and who followed Peko into this hobby, into ping pong. Both of them have different strengths within the sport, but they both have sort of a natural inclination and natural talent. But once they're in high school and the stakes change and differ, and the two of them are kind of confronted with failure, I guess, so failure and success, it changes their dynamic and it impacts them very greatly, and it's brilliant. So yeah, artwork is beautiful, very, very distinct as per expected for Taiyo Matsumoto. The movement in this series is brilliant. You will honestly, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a big baby, but like this series made me cry. The next series I'm going to talk about made me like gasp and tear up as well. So it's not necessarily unusual for me, but yeah, like look how beautiful that is. Look how much movement is just shown through that. And yeah, so I've had volume 1 for a while. Got it the month it came out, or the month after it came out. I don't know. I bought it. I pre-ordered it. It arrived to me when it arrived to me. Who knows? International shipping. And I also, so this week, I got the second half, volume 2. It is as marvelous as ever. Yeah, I mean, if you're not reading Taiyo Matsumoto stuff, I would encourage you to try it. Like, there is no creator, no artist as well, who's just is so adaptable, who is able to write such a huge variety of genres so amazingly perfectly. I was introduced, like a lot of people, to his work via the movie, actually, adaptation of Tekken Kincrete, or Black and White, which we do also have the manga from. That movie, coincidentally, is like my sister's favorite film, maybe of all time. She adores that film, and we do watch it quite often. The manga is amazing. If you haven't gotten it, it's only 1 volume. It's even a larger book than this. It's just a gorgeous edition. Wonderful. We also have his 6-volume series, Sunny, which is about it's about a group of orphaned and kind of abandoned kids at this center, Star Kids Center, I think is what it's called, who obviously come from very troubled backgrounds. A lot of them aren't orphans per se. They've just been left there by their parents in an attempt to like give them some stability whilst their parents are trying to get work or whatever else, bad parents, in the 70s, so 1970s. It is beautiful. Really, really good. Wonderful. Go-Go Monster is another one and done release, which we have gotten. I don't know if it's in print necessarily, from Viz. All of the stuff we've gotten from Taiyo Matsumoto is from Viz. They've put out all of his stuff. Is that everything that we've gotten? And then now, this last week, or last weekend, this time last week, was announced that we are having his series number 5 licensed. I think it's going to be 2-in-1s, 2-in-1 editions, which I think is maybe a good option for Matsumoto's work. He has another series, a samurai series, which I'd be really interested in reading. But that one's a little bit longer. I think that's 8 or 9 volumes, so who knows if we'll ever see it. But his shorter stuff, I mean, Ping Pong has a huge cult following. I think a lot of people discovered him and his work through the anime adaptation, if not his film adaptation of Black and White or Tekken Kincrete. But yeah, he is marvelous. and I do hope that we see more of his work. And if you, thank you, Ethan. and Blue Spring, which is also out of print. I do own Blue Spring. It's a collection of short stories. It's the first or second of Matsumoto's titles that we ever got in print in English. It's not his strongest work. It's one of his earliest works as well. So I think opinions may vary on it. I don't think it's like amazing compared to the rest of his body of work, but it is, if you can find it and you're a fan, maybe track it down. That one's short, as I said, short stories, but like slightly interconnected stories about a bunch of delinquents at high school. Capsule Louvre was one that was Viz put out such a beautiful edition, hardcover, and that was a series that was written for the museum, a gallery in France, the Louvre, which follows the cats that live in the attics of the gallery and just their lives and how they interact with each other. It is so good. So good. But yes, so thank you so much, Aisha. I appreciate that. But I do hope you enjoy his stuff if you haven't read it. It's very powerful, very poignant. I think it's very reflective and has a lot to say about society and, most importantly, children's roles and in society and how they feel they fit in. And especially kids who aren't quote unquote normal, kids who don't fit into the normal social structures. Tech on Concrete is about orphan kids on the street who, just they're in kind of gang fights with other kids in a future concrete city, which is literally what Tech on Concrete is. The name is called Black and White. Our main characters are black and white. It's great. Sunny, as I said, about abandoned kids in the 70s. Both of our main characters in this are not exactly your typical kids. They're not. Go-Go Monster as well is about elementary school kids. One who we're not sure if he quite has magic powers or just the power of imagination. And it's really, I'm so excited for number 5. I don't think people realize like how excited I am, because I do really, really love his work. And it was so exciting getting this in the mail so I could finally finish it, because I have read or watched the series, but I wanted to read it, and it hit hard, man. Hit hard. But yeah, so if anyone has yet to jump into Taiyo Matsumoto's, Ping Pong might be a good idea. If not the manga, then the anime, because it is brilliant. Or if you don't want to commit to a 12 episode series, 12 episode series, then check out the Tech on Concrete movie, because it is also brilliant. And I'm sorry about your future tears, Aisha. But yeah, I mean, if you're a big softie about kids, then yeah, I think you will like his stuff, maybe a lot. So next that I read, that I got this the same day, I think same day as I got Ping Pong. I read this one first because I was so excited to get it. I mean, I was excited about Ping Pong, but I was so excited to get this. I did a first impressions of this and literally just posted it this week. I've been meaning to do it forever, but okay. So I finally got, I think it's only been out this month. I don't know. I'm so far behind with what is coming out every month, because who even cares? What are deadlines? I don't know. I haven't pre-ordered things in months, and when I do pre-order things locally, it takes way longer than it would in the US. So all my friends have been reading stuff. I'm like, we literally haven't gotten the books here because shipping freight to other countries is just dead in the water. Literally. So like I can't, how will I get my nerd books? Anyway. So I guess they finally got stock in for this one. But I finally got Not Your Idol Volume 2. Oh my god! Okay. I said in my first impressions that I didn't really know anything about this series when it was licensed. I don't think a lot of people knew about this series necessarily when it was licensed, but following the editor and like the people who worked on this localization, translation, this English release, whatever you want to call it, what they said about it and how excited they were for the first volume made me so hype for the first volume. I bought it, I read it, and I screamed into a, well, I didn't actually, but like internally I was screaming because it was so good. It was so good. If you haven't watched my first impressions video, I am a little bit more eloquent, I think, about the series there. And I hadn't read this volume yet when I filmed that. All right. So. Okay, so this series is about a high school girl. Name is Nina Kamiyama, who she's very standoffish. She doesn't have any friends. She's quite withdrawn from everyone, and for good reason, because the year before, so I do, Rin put in the comments that it might be too triggering for me. This is a series that covers a lot of very heavy topics. I will put that out there. If you are sensitive to sexual assault and rape, to just really toxic masculinity, rape culture, all of these terrible things in society that affect women and young women especially, this is gonna be a hard read because it is real. Like it's real. All right. But so our main character, the year prior and for a couple years before that, she was an idol. She was part of an idol unit called Pure Club. I think so. Pure Club. And she was actually the center, like the center idol, the most important, the leader, whatever. And she loved being an idol. She loved the idea of making people happy and receiving support from her fans. She had a very pure look, insight, idea of what being an idol and what being at the forefront of this culture, being the face of a group was. She was very naive, which is understandable because she only ever saw the good things about it. And she was, 14, 15 years old. You don't know any better. But the year before, or very recently, she was at an event, one of their meet and greet events, and she was attacked by someone pretending to be a fan, by a knife, which has left her very deeply traumatized. And more so than the attack itself, but the fallout from the attack, i.e. the victim blaming, not only from people on social media and so-called fans, but also the management and the people around her, not the other girls in the group, and not her direct manager necessarily, and not her family, but there was so many people around her saying like, well, idols always have to expect this kind of thing. It's their fault for wearing these revealing, the excuses, the blame that does happen when women are victims of anything. In this case, it was, or in the first volume of the case was a physical violent assault, without any supposed sexual element. In this book, we got some, not even sexual assault, there is straight up rape in here. It is not shown, it is implied, and it's not to our main character, which, not that makes it any better, but it is in there. And the way that that's handled is very sadly very indicative and very truly reflective of how victims act following a sex crime. So anyway, the actual premise of the story is that she has left the idol industry. She's completely changed her image. She's no longer this cute, pretty idol. She wears the boys' uniform, or she wears the pants at her school uniform. She moved cities. She goes by her real name, not her stage name, so nobody knows that she is this idol who left the industry very, very quickly. But one day, her school, there's some issues, like the staff are asking girls to go home in pairs or get a guy, like one of the boys, to walk them home because there's been like reports of some creeper around and they just want to, you know, prevent incidents. Yeah, anyway. And our main character, she's kind of grown, like tentatively starting a friendship with this boy in her class who's part of the judo club. He got who is really the first guy that she's been able to trust in any sort of capacity since her attack, because she is very traumatized. And I really appreciate this. Yeah, the toxicity of idol culture is also a big thing, big thing in this series. But I really like how the series presents and shows, like, obviously people don't think, like, when people say like all men are trash, nobody actually thinks like all men are violent rapists who want to attack women, that there's no good men who've ever been born in the history of the world. Like, that's not the case. And also, guys, boys, men are also stuck in this very toxic culture of toxic masculinity and rape culture and all this other stuff that gives them the leeway to behave badly, and society has never told them to stop doing that because it's shitty. But regardless, there are good people of all genders out there, and men are no exception. But when you are a victim of something, it is hard for you to, you can realize that, you can logically understand that, but it takes a long time for you to actually be comfortable to put yourself back into those situations and to trust people again. And that's really where the focus of these two characters are. So this guy that she's befriending, he knows her secret. He knows that she's this idol because his younger sister was a huge fan of her, most specifically, and the group in general that she was a part of. And he understands her being traumatized, her struggling with what happened to her, even now, even though it's been like a year or whatever, and her not being okay necessarily, because his younger sister was sexually assaulted by one of her teachers, and nobody believed her, and she was basically bullied out of school. And he feels like he can, not only was she a fan of this girl who was an idol, but he can see how hurt victims can be. And he realizes, like, they're not just over exaggerating, that, you know, being raped or being assaulted or being whatever isn't just, you know, like, oh, it's just a part of life. Oh, it's just boys being boys. Oh, it's just this. Like, he recognizes that people treat women like shit. People treat idols like shit. People treat celebrities and those in the spotlight and everyone else in like shit, right? So, oh yeah. So, but I also really liked in the first volume, and it's a character that comes up a lot in this volume. There's a girl in her class, and I liked this because it is, again, very, very reflective of true life. There's a classmate girl who is the most popular. She's cute, she's beautiful, everybody loves her, and she's, also friends with everyone. She gets along with everyone, but she continually plays devil's advocate when the other students, especially the female students, bring up issues of like, well, the boys shouldn't be, flipping skirts, or it's no one should feel ashamed about using the women's car on the train. And she's like, oh, well, not all guys are terrible, and so she kind of like minimizes their argument, because the guys, are like, yeah, she's right. Like, just because some creeps are being weird doesn't mean we're all bad. And again, not all of these girls think that, but they are affected by it. And by playing devil's advocate, by being supportive of these toxic structures, she keeps herself popular. She keeps herself playing the game, playing into all of these toxic things within culture, and she's very well aware of it. And it comes up in this, because she becomes a victim in this book, and the way she handles that is also very much like real life. But also it goes to show, and it, again, very reflective of that, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're gonna, doesn't mean you're a feminist, right? Doesn't mean that you're on the same page as those who've gone through very traumatic, or who are more aware of the issues in culture and want to change something. But yeah, really, really heavy series. But this is, I described it as like a purely feminist piece in my first impressions video. It really is. It really, really, really is. I also said in that video, if you think that feminist is a dirty word, you should not be watching my channel, because this is not the content creator for you. Friend, don't waste your time and your energy trying to convince me that feminists are bad, or that feminism is bad, because it's not. And you have a very flawed idea of what it is. But yes, it is so good. A lot of very, very heavy elements to it. So again, go in well aware of all of the content. And also, so this series is on hiatus. This is the last volume that's come out in Japan. Both volumes end on the biggest cliffhanger. I yelled. I literally yelled when I finished this one, because I'm like, no! I want to read more. Also, I didn't show you any of the art of this. It is beautiful. It's I'm not gonna open on anything too graphic or traumatic. And Hikaru, or what's his name? Hikaru, I don't even know. He's a good boy. And again, just proving that, like, you can believe in these things and be a guy. Like, we all know that that's how reality is. But yeah, it's great. I love it. Not a series for everyone content-wise, but if you think you can be okay reading it, I highly, highly recommend it. It is one of my number one debuts for 2020. It's one of the best books and best series I've been reading this year. So yeah, check it out if it sounds like your thing. Next is another complete series. This one is a library read. another shoujo manga, very different, although I don't know. It's Prince. Well, it's the 4 volumes of The Prince and his in his dark days. This is basically a Prince and the Pauper style of, or an Oron-esque short series about a very poor girl who kind of runs into this rich guy by coincidence, and he drags her to, well, first he drags her to his house and he steals her uniform. Well, he doesn't steal it. He wants to wear it. And so that happens. She runs off, and his like aide slash friend slash butler or whatever is like, oh yeah, sorry about that. That's just this guy. Next thing she knows, she's being brought back to this manor house by said bodyguard, butler, friends, whatever you want to call them. Oh my goodness. And told, you look like they noticed it when they first changed uniforms, but they look really similar. They look like they could be twins. So like, he ran away. We need you to pretend to be him. And if you do, we'll give you money, because she's poor and she needs money to support her dad and pay rent and stuff. So she's like, sure, I'll do that. And it's interesting. It focuses a lot on family, focuses a lot on place. It also has a surprising, I guess, queer bent to it, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. But yeah, it's basically about this girl pretending to be this heir to this huge conglomerate. It's short. It's pretty to the point. Itaro is the guy. What is her name? Oh my god, Atsuko. Itaro is the guy that she's pretending to be. Ryo is his friend slash illegitimate half brother, who's the one who's like really making her do this whole plot, because he wants her to pretend to be him so that she can attend his coming of age ceremony, in where he becomes the next head of the company or whatever, the next head of the family. And with expectations that once that happens, she can go back living her life. They can find the real Itaro, and he will finally take responsibility for his role in his family. And then there's another guy. I can't remember his name. But it's sweet. I had wanted to read this for a while. I think, yeah, Kodansha put this out. I didn't necessarily expect the way it was going, because I didn't really know anything about it, except for it's literally like the Prince and the Pauper meets Oron meets, well, not that Oron isn't queer, but this is more explicitly queer. But also like a shoujo. There's a romance here, a couple romances here. The whole comparison between the rich and the poor, and what is happiness, does money buy happiness, that sort of thing. Freedom, choice, etc. The art is pretty okay. Like, it's not anything fabulous, but it's fine. Oh my goodness, if it would focus, that would be good. And so, yeah, I mean, nothing groundbreaking, nothing revolutionary. But if it's Also, okay, the fact that it's 4 volumes long, I do feel like the last volume kind of quickly tried to tie up everything at the end. I was like, I don't know if everything was actually resolved that well. Like the romance happened and things were sorted out and the family's back together and whatever. But like the whole subplot with Itaru and his just like terrible mother, she's a bad person. I was like, yikes. Yikes. And the other, like, Itaru's, what is his name? Oh my goodness. I don't remember the other guy, like the bodyguard guy's name. Nobunari. Okay, the romance between him and Itaru never. Well, I don't know if it's even explicit. Like, it's romance, but like we don't see much of it except for that. Like, yes, it's happened. Yeah, I don't know. It's all right. I was happy I read it. I liked it. I wouldn't necessarily buy it. Hello, Annan. Thanks for popping in. I wouldn't necessarily buy it, but I had been wanting to read it for a while, and I was happy that my library had the entirety of it, just because, yeah, I mean, it was fun. It's a quick read as well. Like, the 4 volumes go very quickly. Kind of too quickly, as I said. It feels like the author was just trying to wrap everything up in the last couple of chapters, because I'm like, I don't know if that family is going to be as functional as you hope it is at the end of this. But, you know, can't complain. It was a good time. And finally, we are at the end. I have one more completed series that I read today, actually. Another series that I got from my library, and it is the return of my favorite, your favorite, everyone's favorite Clamp with Drug and Drop Volume 1 and 2. This is the sequel to Legal Drug. So that series was written in the early 2000s, like 2002 to 2003, something like that. It went on hiatus / ended, and then like, we have more ideas for this. We're gonna take it off of hiatus, but we're gonna change the name, and we're gonna continue the story. And then they did for 2 volumes, and then they're like, wait, no, we don't want to hiatus again. So this has been on hiatus since like 2012-ish. Okay, so if you hadn't seen my breakdown, my literal mental breakdown, on my first or second one of these live streams, Legal Drug like almost broke me. Clamp in its entirety, I respect as creators, as a group, as independents. They really made it work. They make exactly what they want, and they don't have anyone to tell them, how about you don't do that, okay? Personally, I have never been a huge Clamp fan. I don't hate their work. I've never found one that I love aside from Holic, although I've never read the manga. I've only watched the show, so I do want to read. Like, Holic is the one that I want to read. It's the best one, I think. Most people are nostalgic for like Cardcaptor Sakura and Tsubasa and Chobits, and we had this discussion last time, and I get it, but like, I don't care about any of that. I like Watanuki and Yoko, and yes, yeah, Holic, and the Himawari and the guy Domaki. Oh my, it's been a lot of years since I watched the show, so it's Yeah. Yeah. So I have been periodically reading their manga through my library because I should. I want to read more of their stuff, but I have the issue of that all of their stuff is self-referential, and if you haven't read their entire catalog, there's so much stuff that's just like, why even include this? Oh, because it's an inside joke. All right, but I'm not in on the joke, so it's boring and dumb, and I don't understand the references, and that's fine. Okay, so Dragon Drop continues the story of the two 17-year-old boys. What are their names? Riko and Kazuhaya, who are the main characters. And Riko has this power to, like, with his mind, break stuff. And Kazuhaya, who's the blonde, who you can't even see because of the lighting. There we go. Again, Clamp, we got the blonde twink and the black-haired guy. Boyfriends, but not quite boyfriends, because we can't necessarily be explicit about being gay, but everything is gay. So, yeah, but he can see memories, the past. He touches things and he can see the memories of it, or the memories of the people who owned it, which is fine. So they work at this pharmacy, this drug store, as you say in the US, which is not what we call it here. We call it the chemist or the pharmacy. But so they do like odd jobs with kind of a supernatural element, because they're the pharmacist is not quite human, or what, like, we don't really know. He can see that, well, this actually does explain some stuff, but that series, there's a whole lot of questions, zero answers, and a whole lot of foreshadowing for stuff that will never be paid off because the series is on infinity hiatus. So the whole idea is that these two young guys are taken in by this pharmacist and his boyfriend, and they make them work at this pharmacy and also do odd jobs for them, which always have like some weird supernatural element to them. And also there's a secret fate that are drawing these two together, even though they're at odds. And what could it be? And now in this series, they care about each other because, as I said, everything is gay. And in 8 years or whatever that it took to bring this out, Clint really nailed down the gay part. Like, the art, like, improved. Not that Clamp's art has ever been bad, but, like, there's a stylistic change, and I think it's in part Rin is very true. Kodansha will find my weakness, like so many publishers before them, and them as well, but they will find my Clamp weakness, and I will have to buy Holic, and I'll be happy because I do want it, but like, but yeah, so we follow these characters, and I liked this one more only because in the first volume, our referential crossover reference characters that we're introduced to, that was like, hey, remember these characters? I was like, hell yes, because this is their best series, and I love it. Thank you for giving me Watanuki. Holy shit, guys. I was so happy. Look at my boy. Look at my noodle boy. And I think also, like, because this part of the series, this volume in particular, is integrated with Holic, it has a little bit more of the Holic styling, which I think artistically is nicer than the previous series. Like, I don't know, man. It looks pretty nice. Again, not that Clamp stuff has ever looked bad, but like that, this is my aesthetic. We know this. you know that I am just huge yokai fan, huge super this, and this is why I love Holic so much as well. But like, I would read more. I'm just admitting that I want to read Holic. Like, I don't care about the drag and drop characters. Although, and then okay, so in the original series, it's implied that both of these young guys have girls in their past that they're trying to have a secret about. What is his name? Oh my god. I don't remember anyone's name. Rikuo, the black-haired guy, he has this girl that he's searching for, and then Kazuhaya, he ran away from home and there's a girl waiting for him. We find out in the second volume that we've known for a little while that Kazuhaya has a twin sister, and she's the one that he's like trying to run away from / wanting to protect / whatever else. And we find out more about the backstory in this book. And then we also learn that this guy, the other one, Rikuo, the girl that he's having like dreams of and that he's looking for is his older sister who disappeared, and he's trying to find her. And okay, so you know how I said that the blondie here could see the past memories through touching objects? His twin sister is able, through touching objects, to see the future. So it's revealed that they grew up in like some sort of town, but also like a cult or some sort of group that took advantage of their powers. And so thus some stuff went down. His sister is a psycho. And so like I'm like, boy, it's cool if you ran away, but that's not, he didn't run away because his sister was a psycho. He ran away to protect her. But like anyway, and then the other guy with his sister, we learned she could also tell the future a little bit. She could like have a premonition of the next few minutes. And I'm like, why do all these people have magic powers? I mean, why though? Like literally, why do both sisters? They have different levels of the same power, but like it's all fate. Everything is fate. This is Clamp. Everything is fate. And it's literally said like everything is fate in these volumes. Okay, also volume 2 is a more obvious crossover. I love that everyone just wants to see me suffer in the comments. But so in the more obvious crossover for this one, which I haven't read but I am well aware of, is Wish. So we have Kohaku in this, and it's revealed that the pharmacist and his boyfriend, who only ever wears sunglasses, as actually like angel / demon character from Wish. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't know who any of these people are, but that's fine. Okay, cool. I mean, this was more coherent of a story. There was a lot less. Well, it's only 2 volumes, so, and the chapters I think are longer. Who knows? But I will say, and this is something that's coming up in the chat. There isn't any minor and adult shipping in this one, or relationships. It's not shipping when it's canon. Well, I mean, it can be, but it's the creators aren't shipping them. They're creating them into this relationship. There's no inappropriate age gaps with a minor and an adult necessarily. Or, well, there's not, but there's the whole Kohaku thing where they reincarnate or whatever to be with the guy. I don't know his name because I've never read Wish. All I know that is that it started as JoJo Bizarre Adventure fanfic, well, Dojin, and they just shaved the numbers off and was like, here, this is our new idea. That's what. So forgive me if I don't remember everyone's names and I haven't read everything of it. Then they still have the stupidest haircuts. Like, I said this before, but why is your fringe like that, sir? Like, what? How? Who cut your hair? I mean, it's better than the last series, but it's still not good. Yeah, oh my god, it's so gay. Which, again, is not a detriment to the series. You read Clamp for the gay. Oh, also is a sick tattoo. Magic tattoo. I'm like, oh god. But okay, and so I was reading it, more cohesive. It was fine. Like, I actually understood the references this time because, okay, the reference I was talking about in Legal Drug, where I'm like, I don't know who these are. I looked it up. It's from Suki, which I've even forgot was a series they did, and I know zero things about Suki. Like, you could have had a gun to my head. I couldn't tell you a thing about Suki. So I'm like, oh, that's fine. But so it was fine. We got the backstory of both of these guys' sisters and like the trauma and where they are now. And it's revealed that this guy ran away from the cult / commune / whatever weird religion that had raised him and left his twin sister behind to protect her, because if he'd stayed, then the people in the town, because she was going crazy, she like got kidnapped and had a mental breakdown and murdered everyone. They were too afraid of her, so like, we have to, if both of them are here, she might go crazy again. So at some point, we're gonna have to murder her. One of them is gonna be murdered, and it's probably gonna be her. So he ran away to prevent her from. I don't know. I literally don't understand the logic. But then it's like, oh yeah, okay. I'm spoilers for the series, but like, I'm sorry. One of us has to be murdered. The last page. That's why I left. Hiatus since 2012 or whatever. So cool. Like, I don't know if we're gonna get a different series in. I mean, hey, it's been 8 years. That was the gap between the first and this. So maybe we're due for some more legal drug and drop universe. But like, I'm just so tired. It truly was like, I was so happy to see Watanuki because it was something familiar. I was like, this is my boy, and I love him. And his series was cool and had a whole bunch of stuff that I liked. And I don't know who is in charge of the writing for that one in the group versus all the other stuff that they've done. But like, I don't know. I've read, so aside from Drug and Drop and Legal Drug, I've also pardon me, I've also read Clover from them. I've read Cardcaptor Sakura in its entirety. I've read the entirety of Koboto. I read, did I read something else? God, I don't even remember. Oh, I read the first half, I guess, or one of Magic Knight Rayearth. I haven't read Magic Knight Rayearth 2. I've only read Magic Knight Rayearth. I watched Holic, as I've mentioned like 5 times already. I watched Tsubasa. I am aware of the existence of Chobits and of Angelic Layer and like Clamp School Detectives and a whole bunch of their stuff, but I've never watched it. Is there anything else that they've put out? Maybe, but I don't remember. And I don't have nostalgia for like Cardcaptor Sakura, and I don't have. I mean, I was watching and reading, watching Tsubasa and well, Holic. Holic, I guess I just lucked out because Holic was the very first one of their shows that I watched because it was coming out when I got into anime. So I was like, this looks cool, and I watched it. And I was like, this was cool. Least bad title I've read. I don't know. Clover makes no sense. Like I know people are like, oh well, it's all interconnected, it's going backwards and forwards and all of that, but I don't care enough to like try to decipher the hidden meanings. I shouldn't need some magic decoder ring to figure out the storyline, right? Maybe that's controversial to say, but that's how it is. And Kobato was fine. Like I didn't like it because it was really just like it. I don't know. It didn't feel like it had any sustenance to it. Maybe that's mean, but I felt really bored reading it. I was like, this is cute, but like I don't care about any of this. And then also it was terrible because it ended on reincarnation age gap romance. I'm like, why do you have to do this with every single title, Clamp? Literally why? Again, I haven't read Holic, but I do like it. Cardcaptor Sakura is, I mean, overall. Oh, I've also read some of Clear Card, like the sequel of Card. That's the other thing. Like, why do they keep making sequel? Well, it's because I'm not to be shady, but like they are definitely relying on their past popularity to stay in work, maybe because Clear Card. I don't think Cardcaptor Sakura needed a sequel. I don't think anyone thought it needed a sequel, and it's weird that it's gotten one. But hey, people love Cardcaptor Sakura, and they love Sakura and Sharon and Tomoyo and all of them. But I don't know. But yeah, Cardcaptor Sakura is fine. Like, again, I wasn't super invested in it. I like Sakura. I like Sharon. I like what is their names? Like the brother and Yukito. I like them. They're all fine. I didn't like the fact that her mom was 16 when she hooked up with the dad. I don't like the fact that for some reason the grandpa had to be a secret to her, even 10 years after, or 15 years or whatever after, well, I guess like 10 or 8 years after the mom died. Like, why does the secret grandpa? Literally, why? I don't know why they had the romance. I mean, everyone knows about the romance between the literal like 10-year-old and her teacher who's like in his 20s, and that's creepy. And again, like, oh, it's fate. I'm like, it's not fate, it's pedophilia. Do not do that, Clamp. No. Legal age is not 13. I mean, in the legal documents, yes, but no prefecture, literally no prefecture has it at 13. The minimum is 16. There's like one island which is uninhabited that is 13, but everywhere else is 16 or 18. So that's not even an argument. And it's also fucking weird. It doesn't matter if it's legal. If you're someone in your, like, if you're 27 dating a 16-year-old, you are a bad person and a predator, and it is gross. It is gross. sure, things were different back in the 19th century, but we are not in the 19th century, and Cardcaptor Sakura was not written in the 19th century. Anyway, not to call you out, Annan, but that's just something that really annoys me. That's the argument that always is like, oh no, it's fine because it's legal. I'm like, I don't care if it's legal. It's just fucking gross. Yeah, Kohato was what bad age gap. Clanad, oh my god, I'm going crazy. Sakura again had weird age gaps. Again, everyone brings up like the 10-year-old classmate and the homeroom teacher who are like engaged at the end of it. And I'm like, yes, that is weird and terrible and gross and wrong. But like, also, did everyone forget about that other guy who was like 10 and then the other teacher, but he was a boy and then the teacher or whatever, the adult was a woman? Do people talk about that? It's like, no, he's got the mind of a 5,000-year-old wizard or something. I'm like, it is weird. Why couldn't he reincarnate as like a little bit earlier so he's not a literal 10-year-old? And I know it's so he can be a classmate to Sakura, but like, then why does he have to hook up with the lady teacher who also apparently had like a relationship with her brother when he was like 13? It's very concerning. It is very concerning. The only thing I know about Wish is Kohaku, genderless angel, and angels and demons, and then reincarnation, because Kohaku shows up in this series, and they also show up in Kobato. And there's like, oh yes, I've reincarnated 5 times, and I also, connected with fate with the guy that I'm in love with, and so I see him every time. I've gone through 5 reincarnations with him. Like, okay, don't you want to meet new people? I mean, maybe it's wonderful having a fated love throughout the ages, beyond time. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm a sucker for soulmates. But like, if you've been dating the same person through 5 of their different lifetimes, sometimes maybe you just, how about during the time you're not dating them, you date someone else, maybe meet some new people, broaden your horizons a little bit, learn a bit more about yourself. But this is fate. We're not allowed to play around with fate. What else? I know of Chobits, never watched it. Sex robots, but then also something about is because there's a clamp universe, and so some of the Fae from Tsubasa, he invented them, and they look like his mother or something. Like, what is this Oedipus shit now? Like, I don't know what's going on. But there's like, no, that's just a different timeline or a different dimension or whatever the fuck's going on in Clampverse. I'm interested in stuff that they've done. Like, I would read Tokyo Babylon and I would read X, but that's another series that's on infinity hiatus and will literally never get finished because earthquakes. We don't want to remind people about earthquakes. I still need to watch the show for that. I own it because I got I got the DVDs and a lot with a whole bunch of other stuff. But yeah, so I haven't read those. Like, I know people like them. Their action, they got stuff, but like, I don't know. Clamp School Detectives is what, like school mysteries? I don't know anything about that. I read like way back in the day, and I think I talked about this as well the first time I had my Clamp breakdown. I read like not sure Yukihime. You like the Snow Woman one. It's like a one and done volume. It was It was a manga that I read before I even knew what manga was. I was so confused. I don't even know if I read it the right direction because I wasn't a manga fan. So I don't know. Who knows? All I remember is that I was really confused. I was like, this is weird. And then it took like 5 more years for me to get into manga. Thank you, Aisha. Shirahime Syo. Yeah, I read that one way back. I haven't read it since, and it's probably not I mean, maybe I would understand it more now. I have Rig Veda to read. Like, I've got 2 volumes of Rig Veda right over there. Not there, but right over there to read. They've just been sitting there. I'm like, I'm going to get to it at some point. Because, again, library reads. There's other things I want to read first. And I've heard, like, interesting things about that. It's not that their titles are boring. I mean, maybe they're thrilling if you understand every reference. But, like, I don't think you should have to read an author's entire works to understand just off the cuff jokes or like panel zoom ins. Like, how would you feel if Hermura Arakawa in Silver Spoon just like literally had Edward Elric just in the background and you're just like, oh, look, this is him. Remember him? You remember? It's like, it doesn't make any sense that he's there. Do we have a parallel universe like the original movie implicated? Maybe, but like, I don't. And like, it's weird because like, I'm not into the Fate franchise, like Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero and that, but I get it. And like, that has it has a bajillion spin-offs and it's this huge giant franchise. But like, you don't have to watch Fate Grand Order to understand Fate Zero. You have to watch Fate Zero to understand Fate Stay Night, to understand like Unlimited Blade Works, to understand Heaven's Feel, because that is all one adaptation of the visual novel and was originally all the same work. Fate Zero wasn't, but it was like the prequel light novels, which was meant to be directly integrated. But all the weird spin-offs, like Garden of Sinners and the vampire one, which I can't remember, Tsukihime or whatever, you don't have to watch those or read those or play those games to understand Fate or understand any of the other stuff, because like, they're somewhat self-contained. It's like, yeah, they exist in the same universe, or they exist with like the same magic understanding, and they could exist in the same world, but you're not going to just have Fate Stay Night Archer just hang. Well, I mean, you are, because there's all these like weird comedy things, but like, it's just Clamp. I don't know. Everything is something in Clamp, and if you're not into Clamp, you're not in on the joke. And thus, it's just like, this was pointless and weird, and I don't know what makes it appealing aside from the artwork, aside from nostalgia, aside from like pretty cool ideas, which get bogged down by having absolutely no one to rein them in creatively. I don't know who their editor is, but they need a little bit of a tighter leash on these ladies, because I mean, everyone was in the comments going on about how Tsubasa is just a clusterfuck, and it literally is, and that's because nobody told them, no, chill out, no, we don't need to visit every series you've ever written, because it doesn't make any sense. You write yourself into a corner and then nobody knows what's going on, even you who invented it, and that's a rough time. But I'm gonna stop. Yeah, Vryn has put it perfectly. So like this tie-in superhero comics, and if nothing else, hasn't Cape Comics and the American like big two comics industries, the convolution of those books is so like isn't that just like one of the biggest reasons as to like why it's impossible to get into comics and nobody knows where to start, and it's like really confusing, and to understand things now you have to read 50 years worth of comics, and therefore it is impossible for newcomers to come into. Clamp is the shoujo manga version of that, except for with less muscles and more gay guys with beautiful hair and incest and or age gaps. Like it's literally the same thing. And if you're coming into it now as a newcomer, not back in the 90s when they were starting their career, you good luck, because you have no way to start understanding this unless you literally start from the very beginning, their very first title, and then going from there. But even by the end of that, you get to like Tsubasa and all this other stuff, and you're like, I don't. Maybe it's fulfilling then, but I've never been a superhero comics fan. I've never followed the American comics industry aside from like indie stuff that closely. So I have no experience with that. And with Clamp, it just proves to be the same issue. Like it's fine. It's not a waste of my time, but it does make me think that there's a lot of praise for them, which is well respected, which is totally earned, but their reputation is from their older titles more so than their new stuff coming out. And yeah, I'm not like when I see that Clamp, like a Clamp title is licensed, or not that we have any that need to be licensed, because we literally have everything that they've ever put out ever, and Kodansha's putting out super fancy editions of everything, which is great. Congrats, Clamp fans, super awesome. And I know, again, you guys even made the joke, if they do it for Holic, I'm going to be suckered in with you, but it's just a lot of work for maybe not the payoff that you want. And Clamp, when a new title, when a new fancy edition is announced, I'm happy for fans, but I don't care. It might mean that my library will get it in 3 years, and then I can read it then, but they're not something I'm interested in buying. They're just not. Yeah. But that has been my secondary Clamp rant, but also that has been the end of this week's wrap up, this manga wrap up. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoy. There's a lot here. I finished some series. I continued. I finished and reread Ping Pong. I finished I finished Prince in His Dark Days. I finished Dragon Drop, despite my frustrations, but despite a really solid start. I continued Not Your Idol, which is heavy but amazing, and Soul Eater was a real fun return to some nostalgia, and yeah, it's far from high art, but it's a great time, and I do recommend those hardcovers if you're wanting them. Square Enix is doing a really good job with them, but I don't like, if you have the singles, I don't think it's necessary to upgrade. I will be interested. I should have brought this up when I was talking about Soul Eater. I will be interested seeing in subsequent volumes the translation choices, because there's a couple things I think that have been changed between the Yen Press translation and the Square Enix translation, and I'm most interested in seeing how Square Enix, if they will use the they them pronouns for Corona, because back in the day when Yen Press was putting the series out, Corona uses like a gender neutral pronoun, but because they didn't want to use like it, or and also they them wasn't as widely accepted as it is now. They used he him for Krona. Why am I so choky today? And so I'd be interested to see if they use they them for Krona. So that might be, if that's important to you, that might be also another additional reason to pick up these newer editions of Soul Eater. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I wasn't too mean to your favorite series. Although I don't know how many people love Drug and Drop. I'm glad that it seems everyone seem to enjoy themselves. I always appreciate when you guys come on. And thanks for joining me as always. I will catch you in the next video, which probably might be a series review, might be a first impressions, loose first impressions for something. Who knows? I should have a video up before the end of the week. Next weekend, next Saturday, so the next time I'm going to be streaming is going to be Halloween. Do not go trick-or-treating because it is irresponsible for you to, because we are in a global pandemic. Here, if you live where I live, then go trick-or-treating. We do not have, well, we have like 12 coronavirus cases and they're all in quarantine. So it's okay if you live here, but I don't know if anyone who's watching lives here. But if you're in the US, do not go trick-or-treating, please. It is not your God-given right to get more candy. Just don't do it. But I think that I will have a costume on. I don't know what I'm gonna wear, but I'll figure something else out. You can hang out, pretend that it's just a normal Halloween. We can eat some candy. I need to get some candy, and we'll get a costume, and we'll talk about some manga, and maybe some books, and some everything else. It'll be fun. I mean, you guys don't have to get dressed because I can't see you. Yeah, and also it's like early in the morning for you guys, so don't wake up to get spooky. But it will be the end of the day for me, and I will do my best to find a Halloween costume. It's not going to be cosplay. It's going to be like, I don't know, a witch or something. And I don't know. We'll figure something out. But yeah, so that will be next week, and the same day I will also be posting my monthly pickup haul video, that whatever it is, pickups video that I do. More manga than I thought there'd be, just because again I've been buying locally, which has been really fun. It's been really nice to support local businesses and stuff. So yeah, hopefully if you want to, I mean, some of these titles you know already because I've been talking about them here, but there's some stuff that might be surprise. Anime as well, always separate again for people who are interested. But yes, I will actually leave now. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will also if you have too much things to remember at 11:30 at night. Yesterday I posted the 16th episode of the podcast that I co-host with Ray from Whimsical Pictures, Read Right to Left. Our topic again for spooky season is horror manga. If you're interested, you can it will literally be the video before this one on my YouTube channel, which hopefully you're watching this on. Otherwise, you can also listen to it on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's a fun time. We talk about a lot of different horror titles, a lot of stuff that's available, some of our favorites, some creators that we love that we don't think we get the spotlight as much as some others. But yeah, for third time, thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. I will catch you next week, if nothing else. And bye till then.